Yes, we are live. What is up, Flip2Freedom Academy family? We are here, beautiful Phoenix, Arizona, and all is good. Everything's cranking. Business is on fire, market's on fire, and I'm glad to be here with you today to talk about some killer stuff, answer some questions, and have a blast. So, if you're joining us for the very first time, I'd like to appreciate it, having come on here. You'll see a chat box below, and I'm going to go in there right now and tell everybody to refresh your SCRE. Come, we're live. Boom. Okay, good. Alrighty. Cool. Because sometimes when you're inside the academy, you get to refresh your screen, so you can see the Google Hangout go live. So we're good to go. All right, I am going to go in, take you inside. Let me see here. Boom. Let's go in here, start screen share. Actually, I'm going to go to, let's do something different. I'll do desktop. Alrighty. All right, inside the Flip2Freedom Academy, obviously all you guys are here. Very cool. We're started. And I'll get on there and answer your questions. Make sure you lock into Flip2Freedom.com. We have a ton of posts on here for everything you want to know. Obviously, we have the Flip2Freedom Academy where we have all the detailed information in there, all the different modules, the membership training, and we're still in the process of revamping the Academy, adding more content and streamlining. And also I'm working on developing a killer all-in-one suite it's a software that's just going to revolutionize your life. It's going to be awesome. And basically what I did is and this has been with another partner I'll rename nameless right now until it's at the right time. But basically I looked at my entire business of every component, and I'm trying to take all the components and add it into one software platform. We're looking at a launch date in mid-August for this software program. But literally, it's going to tie in list source for lists. It's going to tie in from list a direct mail center that's going to be tied to a list source with all these pre-selected lists that are already pre-done for you, tied into a direct mail center that's tied into an automatic CRM, Podio Lite style CRM, which is killer, which is integrating Podio into it. It's the same apps and suites that we have. So it's tying all that together, and then being able to tie in a website builder, so where you can have all your websites at one location, and an analytics dashboard. So basically, you'll have an all-in-one suite, so where all your marketing, all your CRM with Podio, everything like that's all going to be integrated into one suite, and it's going to be killer. So obviously we update stuff here at Flip2Freedom.com, which is cool. If you haven't followed me on Instagram, go to Instagram.com/Flip2Freedom. We post some cool stuff on there. Here's with Eric Thomas, some cool quotes, the podcast. Stuff like that. So definitely go to Instagram.com/Flip2Freedom. I'm on there, or Facebook or whatever. And the Facebook the group is there. Also, too, take the Flip2Freedom Challenge, where we gave away $10,000 at the event, at the Extreme Freedom event in April, and it was amazing. It was so much fun. So make sure you sign up for that. It's easy. Just enter your information here. Then enter your results here. So we have all the different success stories. And what we did was we had everybody up on stage, had everybody pick, and everybody voted from people in the audience. And we gave away $10,000, and it was so much fun. So enough of that. Let's get back to boom, and there we're back. All right. So what are we going to talk about today? We are going to talk about, see, the process is, you know, and I get a lot of questions from people that are in a situation where, you know, you're brand new, you're getting started, or you're advanced. It doesn't matter whether you're advanced or brand new. And you send out marketing. So you send out postcards to, you know, to absentee owners, yellow letters to inheritance, you know, and you send all these different marketing channels. You got Google AdWords leads coming in. And then it's how we process those leads are probably the most important thing to converting those leads into deals. I've been talking about this a lot lately because it's so important, because now more than any time ever, there are more people mailing into the marketplace, meaning, you know, you could get properties off the MLS. Well, the MLS has dried up essentially. You can get properties off of HUD. Now, HUD hasn't dried up. There's still inventory on there, so it's a great source. I love getting HUD homes. It's awesome because there's no marketing cost whatsoever, and it's great. But there is increased competition. People aren't getting properties at the courthouse steps anymore because the bidding is gone out of whack, and they're pretty much paying retail. Actually, you know, one of the TV shows that was filmed here locally, they would get properties at the courthouse steps. Well, they just canceled that show because they couldn't get any deals, right? You know, so the interesting thing is that now when these channels dry up, what happens is now people want to look at direct marketing, which I've been touting, and you know, I do all the time, right? I do all those channels, but then the most important thing is direct to seller. That's where we send out marketing to specific niche lists where you have inheritance, you have absentee owners with high equity, you have absentee owners that are 65 plus. That's a great list. I'm working on a list right now, what's called the zombie foreclosure list. Now, the zombie is someone that's in foreclosure but has vacated the house, right? Zombie. I mean, I'm working on, I'm testing that list right now, and that's a killer list too. So I haven't got the results back from it yet. So once I get the results back from it, I'll share it with you guys. But the bottom line is that that's a great list. And I mean, we target a blanket list where people have owned their property more than 10 years. So we do all these different marketing channels where the leads come in. Now the goal is to convert those leads. So what I want to talk about today is now you're sending out the marketing. What happens now when you talk to that seller? Okay, you talk to the seller and you build rapport. You make the difference, right? Whether you can convert that lead into a deal or not. Okay, it's like, you know, someone getting on a bike, right? My daughter, right? And actually, it's funny. I bought my daughter for Christmas a longboard. Okay, you know those big long skateboard type of things. Well, you know, and she's 11, right? So she got one of these nice killer longboards and stuff, and she was all excited. And I go out there, and when I was a kid, I used to skate all the time. I used to, you know, it'd be fun. So I got on the thing, and I'm 44 and have, like, you know, I mean, I haven't been on one since I was like 12 myself. You know, so I got on there. It was a little wobbly at first, but boom, hey, I was right back in it. So it's like riding a bike. I was like, oh, shade taking off, straighting down. I was, you know, going back and forth, and she's like, holy cow, you know, it's amazing. But, you know, she gets on it, right, and she's all wobbly, and the thing flies out from under her, and she lands on her butt. And she goes, and she's like, the skateboard's broken. It sucks. And she's blaming the skateboard. I was like, don't blame the skateboard. You can't blame the skateboard, right? You know, if you take the skateboard and you put it in someone that's phenomenal, you know, they'll turn around, they'll be great. If you put it in mine, I'll do okay, you know. And she has to learn how to craft her skill, get her balance, and be able to I know it's not manipulate's the right word, but be able to ride that skateboard, you know, so she can go out and have some fun, you know. But it's going to take some effort. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some skills. It's going to take some falling down on her butt. But if she has the attitude that, listen, I am going to master this one portion. I'm going to learn how to get on the skateboard and push. Then I'm going to learn how to turn. Then I'm going to learn how to, you know, stop. And then I'm going to learn how to go downhill and stuff. So, you know, it's a process of learning different steps. It's the exact same thing when we talk about now we send out the marketing, now we have sellers calling, right? And how we handle it, or how you ride the skateboard, or you get on the skateboard, and how you handle that process will determine your success. Now, some people said, well, I've sent out, 1,000 mailings, I talked to, 40 people, I haven't got a deal yet. So my question is, well, first off, what's the list you sent to? Second off, what was the mail piece? Third off, how did you handle the deals? How did you convert? What did you say to them? How did you build rapport with them? Maybe they don't trust you. Maybe they don't like you. Maybe, maybe that you just went in and you didn't calculate an offer right. There's a lot of different variables, but the biggest thing I want you to take away from it is you can become great at conversion, okay? If you can become great at conversion, then what's going to happen is you are going to be able to send less marketing, or more marketing, depends how you want to blow it up, but generate more revenue, from the same marketing, okay? So it's a skill that we can learn and adapt. So let's talk about, and we're going to chunk it down into, there's the pre-segment, right? Then there's the, there's the actual, conversion point where you're actually going to close them. And then it's the after point, which is, we talk about objections and stuff. So, so when at these different chunks, I want you to picture what we can do going in and being able to get good at one specific segment that can in turn lead into another segment. Like might be getting on the skateboard, that's one segment. Being able to push off and getting your balance, that might be a segment. And then being able to turn and skid and do all that type of stuff, that would be a third segment. So the bottom line is the segments we want to look at is what you do before and what you do right when you meet the seller, that particular standpoint. And I'm not going to get into personality types and all this type of stuff right now. I just want to give you the idea and the premise. And then what you do when you're actually negotiating and talking to the seller and overcoming objections. So this process begins where you talk to the seller, you gather information. Now, gathering information is incredibly important. That's where you start to build rapport with the seller. Okay, that's where you're listening for the information. And obviously, in this particular state, you want to do 80% listening and 20% talking. Listening will gather information and intel, so then you can craft a presentation or talk to them and basically give them what they want so you can get what you want. Okay, it's like if we own a bakery, and I talk about this, if you own a bakery and you're selling brownies, right? If someone comes in your bakery or you're selling, you have all these different things you have, right? If someone comes in the bakery and says, hey, I want a chocolate cake with vanilla icing and sprinkles, right? And if you're too busy talking and you're not listening, right, and then you come out with a vanilla cake with chocolate icing, with strawberries. So I don't care what you can negotiate, the rapport that you build, the closing that you do, the objections you overcome. If you try to sell them a vanilla cake with chocolate icing with strawberries on top, and they asked for a chocolate cake with vanilla icing with sprinkles on top, you're going to be like this. Okay? So how do we find out what someone wants? How do we find out? We ask questions. Okay? And part of that questioning is asking, say, listen, Mr. Seller, what's most important to you about selling your property? So when you're talking to them, and then you want to reiterate when you meet with them on the phone, what's the most important to you about selling your property? Okay? And they might say, I just want to have a fair transaction with someone that I trust, that I know I can get it done in a timely fashion. You're going to have someone that says, listen, I just want to get this thing done as fast as humanly possible. And then someone's going to say, well, listen, you know what, I'm looking for the best price possible. Okay? Now, you ask that one question, now you get 3 different answers. So if you try to sell the guy that wants the best price possible, speed, hey, I can close this thing in 7 days, right? Guess what? You're bumping heads. So the goal is to, ask that question and ask it in a way and at different times to really understand what's most important to them about selling the property. And they'll tell you, And if you build a level of rapport, you'll get even deeper on the reason why they're selling. So let's talk about it. You talk to them on the phone, you gather information. After you gather information, they tell you it's a 3-bed, it's a 2-bath, it's 1,500 square feet, it's that, all this stuff about the property, right? And you ask them, say, listen, how soon would you like to sell? If we came up with a fair price, you and I, like each other, how soon would you like to sell? And they go, well, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. Now, remember this. And here's the deal, is that if someone tells you 60 days, 90 days, you just don't cash it in. You just don't go, oh, they're not motivated, they're not a distressed seller, they want to sell in 60, 90 days, boom, and then just write them off. Have you ever played poker? Right? When you play poker, you have your cards. And when you have your cards, right, you're playing, have you ever heard of the bluff? So when someone comes in and they come in with, a stack of chips, right? You got two different options. You can match the chips. You can fold and say, I'm out. That's too aggressive, right? Or you could match the chips, and now you go, okay, let's play. Or you can go over the top and then say, I'll match your chips, but then I'm going to raise you, the same amount of chips. That's called coming over the top. So now I'm going to come over the top. Now, what is that saying? It's basically portraying that you have a very strong hand, or it could be a bluff, right? So now the opponent comes in, he's looking at his cards going, well, I have a king, if I got the big slick, right? I got an ace and a king, what do I do, right? Do I fold it, right, because of the probability, or do I match it, right? So now it's making that person really make a decision on what they want to do. So how does this relate with real estate? It relates with real estate when you're asking a question like, listen, Mr. Seller, how quick would you like to sell, right? They're going to come in and go, well, if I tell them I need to sell super quick, well, maybe I'll get a lower price. So maybe I'll tell them 60 or 90 days to play like I don't care, right? That is a tactic. So you don't make a decision if the seller's distressed on one specific question. It's a series of questions. Let me ask you, Mr. Seller, if you and I liked each other, we came to a price, how soon would you like to sell? Well, I'm really not in a rush. I could sell, anytime. See, that's what I would say. If I needed to sell, but I wanted to maximize my price, I'd be like, hey, listen, you come in and you make a good offer, right, and it makes sense, I can close whatever. I'm not in a rush. That's what I would say. But now you might be talking to a seller, and then you might instantly put him in a category, it's no deal, right? Just because they're playing poker, right? So now another question might be going into, say, listen, Mr. Seller, what's the reason for selling? Now, they can either give you a camouflaged version or they could give you the real version. 99% of the time, they're going to give you a camouflaged version of the real situation, right? So now you're going to get, so you're having to navigate and try to find out, right? So now if you have a camouflage version, you have that. That's why I tell you to make offers on every single potential deal, that comes in. You're going to have some people that's going to say, oh my gosh, I need to sell now. I just had this house. There's someone living in it, and there's some bum living in the place. He's trashing the place, and I'm getting these notices from the city because they're going to clean it up, but I can't go over there because I'm afraid because I don't want to get mugged by this guy inside the place. I just need to sell and sell now. Okay, you'll have 1 out of 25 to 30 of those. Then you have the rest that are going to play their cards, right, because they're not super distressed. So the goal is trying to convert those, of gathering information, building rapport, and then being able to close the transaction. Okay, so now, what do you do in that situation? So let's say you have someone that says, well, I'm not really in a rush. They say, great, what would you like to get for the property, Mr. Seller? Right? Now, seller goes, well, I don't really know. Obviously, you're the professional. Why don't you tell me what you'll give me for the property? Okay. So then you say, okay, great. Sounds good. Doesn't sound like you really want to sell quickly. It doesn't sound like you're, in a rush to be able to move anything. Basically our service, what we do is we cater to people that need to move quick. So it sounds like, Mr. Seller, you could potentially just go list it on the MLS and try to get the price that way. Now, I can sure you understand that, currently days on market for properties right now, about 90 to 100 days, and you're probably going to pay, a chunking commission. Are you okay with that, Mr. Seller? Because, that's probably, I could refer you, that could probably be the best way to go, or if you want, I can, we can talk about a price. Now, what am I doing? Right? I'm pulling it away. I'm giving him an option to test to see if his motivation on that particular option. So now I'm going, okay, well, that's fine. Probably your best bet would just be, selling the property to the realtor. Now, if there's motivation on the inside, now I take away, right? Then he's going to go, well, I don't really want to list it right now, and in 100 days is a little bit longer than I'm expecting. So if you could come in, the real motivation comes out, right? So what you do is you lead down a path, and then if you're sensing, you bring a takeaway, you pull it away, right, and see if there's real motivation. If not, then you say, great, Mr. Seller, what we're going to do is I'm going to pull up the comparable properties. I'm going to find out what properties are similar to yours are selling in your or sold in your marketplace, in your subdivision, and I'm going to figure out exactly what the highest and best amount we can send, and I will I'll send you a cash offer. It's the best way to get it to you via fax or email, which is better for you. Oh, you can do it via email. Okay, great. Write the information down. Now, if you sense their motivation after you say, well, you can list it with a realtor and go that way, and there's motivation there, well, maybe then, you say, well, why don't I come look at the property? And a lot of it's going on a gut feel of how you're feeling with the seller when you're talking to them. It's it's interesting, but it's that important part. Some people, if you get on the phone and you're just, shh, tell me about the property. What's the reason for selling? This, that, da 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 da. It can be clear cut to a certain point, but you really got to understand, exactly that people, just like poker, they don't want to reveal their cards. Just the way it is. So now, let's say now you determine that there's motivation, and there may be a slight motivation, but there is motivation there. Now, like I said, when we talk about motivated seller, truly motivated seller, you can't screw up a truly motivated seller. Oh my gosh, there's a bum living in the house. I got to sell the thing. I don't know what to do. I'm getting, these notices from the city to clean up the property. I want to go, and say, great. That type of deal, you can't screw it up. If you can build a rapport with them, you got them, get them under contract, immediately rush to get those deals. You can't screw them up. It's everything in between. It's the ones that are kind of, those are the ones that if you can get good at converting, and guess what? Your revenue soars. It goes through the roof, and your ROI goes up. Your cost per lead deal goes down. Do you know what I mean? So it's a huge benefit. So now the next step. So we've got really dialing in on the phone to figuring out what the motivation is. Are they playing poker with you? Are they giving you a tell? And by strategically asking different questions and leading them certain ways. So now you gather your information, right? You have your, I talk my manila folder. We always have a manila folder. In the manila folder, there's 2 contracts. In the manila folder, you have 3 comps, okay? Comparable properties. Those are the 3 lowest of the low comps that you can find in a 1-mile radius within the last 6 months. It's justifiable. 3 of the lowest of the low comps, okay? You have those part of your manila folder. I'm not going to say that anymore. Anyways, so you say that, and then you have a letter of authorization if they have a loan on the property, and then your lead sheet, and that's it. And then you're going to have your number, what the highest you can pay for the property, written small inside your folder, like I said, in your folder. So now you have that, and boom, you're off to your appointment. You always show up 15 minutes, 30 minutes early to be able to take 15 minutes and drive the neighborhood. I usually have my Redfin app on my Redfin, and I go through and I look at all the similar properties. I dial in and understand the neighborhood inside and out. Then from that standpoint, I show up about 5 minutes early to the appointment. Now, if you were at this Extreme Freedom event, you knew that we broke down the different personality types, and you know that the personality type for that's analytical gets extremely mad if you're late, right? So you make sure you want to show up on time, typically 5 minutes early. So now, okay, now you are bridged the conversation on the phone now to meeting him in person, okay? Now it's how your first impression, right, makes a huge difference. First impression makes a huge difference. So now you meet with them, okay? And remember, people like themselves, right? So you meet with them, and remember, you're going there to buy their house. So if you show up in scrubs, you know, and your hair's all messed up, and your shirt, you know, whatever, and you've got, you know, holes in your jeans, and, you know, and whatever, what does that do for a first impression? You're supposed to be a business person that's going to pay cash for their house. So what happens, there's an inconsistency there. You're going to pay cash for my house, but you look like a slob, right? So interestingly is that if you do that, right, subconsciously they're not going to believe you. And if they don't believe you, they're not going to sell you the house. Okay? So let me ask you a question. Some people have mustaches. They have facial hair. And we did what's called, it was over Extreme Freedom, we had what's called a Money Day. And in the Money Day, we had about 15 people, and each person stood up for about a half hour. They told what they're doing in the business, where they're at in the business, what their biggest problem is, and then for the other 15 minutes, I basically said, here's what you got to do. And one guy got up, I'm not going to say his name, one guy got up there, and he had facial hair, right? And he goes, I don't understand. He was, you know, kind of dressed, you know, well, he was dressed okay, but it was more facial hair, and he had a nose ring, I think it was, or some sort of nose ring and facial hair. So now he's walking to people's houses, and he lives in more of a luxury area where the houses are 500,000 to 600,000, 700,000 plus. So he's walking to a house. He's got, you know, scrud facial hair, right, and a nose ring. I don't know why I can't get any deals. Okay, you could say the right thing on the phone. You could build a level of rapport with them, but subconsciously, boom. Now, when I grew up as a kid, right, they had Dudley Do-Right. Remember him? The guy with the mustache, right? Every villain that we grew up with had a mustache. You know, I mean, it's like, I can't even think of any right now, but all the villains we knew had mustaches. So when you have a mustache, you have a beard, you have some sort of, you know, whatever, it's basically saying to the prospect, don't trust me. Don't trust me. And then you have a nose ring in there, so you're dealing with the segment of the market, right, that, you know, that have houses typically, you know, some of the best deals are age group 50, 60, 70 plus, or someone that's maybe unemployed or in a situation. That might be fine if it's just a distressed house, foreclosure, whatever. But if you look at the whole entire thing, you got to be professional. You got to be, and I've never really talked about this before, but the bottom line is, you know, look in the mirror. Do you look like you could write a check for someone's $150,000, $200,000 house? You know, now I'm not saying you have to show up in a suit, in a tie, and all decked out, wear a Rolex watch, and drive a Land Rover. You don't have to do that. But you got to look professional, and you've got to look like you're there to business, and you got to look like, you know, that you're, you know, that you can strike a check for whatever amount, because you're buying the house cash. Otherwise, you know, they're going to have this gut instinct, gut feeling that, you know, I don't really trust you. And then they're going to give the objection. I want to think about it. I got other investors I want to talk to. I don't know. So look in the mirror, right, when you go out and talk to your seller today, and ask yourself the question, do I look like I can strike a check for that house? Is that what I portray? Is that what I put out as the first impression? First impression is so important because, right, because they instantly meet you and they can make a decision whether they like you or don't like you in a matter of seconds, just by the way you look, okay? And that's scary, right? So you want to make sure that you try to conform the best you can when it comes to that. Now, if you want to go out clubbing, okay, put your nose ring in, right? If you want to go out and you're going out and you're hanging out at the beach or whatever, go ahead. It's fine, right? But when you're going talking to sellers and you want to portray the fact that you can strike a check for the amount of the house. So now you go in, that's incredibly important. Now, once you've crossed that barrier and you meet with them, now it's the level of building rapport where you talk 20% and let them talk 80%. And that's by asking them questions about them. The best way is talking about the house, getting them talking about themselves, getting them talk about their kids, the pictures on the wall, their dogs, their cats. When I walk into a property and they've got dogs, sometimes I just disregard the press. So, hey, oh my gosh, you got a cute dog, and the dog's licking me in the face and crawling up on me, and the dog loves me. Now, if you have a dog owner, right, and the dog loves the person coming over, guess what? You're instantly going, oh, he's a nice guy. He likes my dog. The dog likes him. Now, if you come over and you're standoffish, right, and the dog's barking at you, and he goes, I don't like dogs. From a dog person's perspective, they're going to go, I don't like you. And if they don't like you, they're not going to do business with you. So you're doing everything in your power to be able to get them to like you and trust you by being interested in them, interested in their house, interested in their hobbies, interested in their pets, interested in their, their surroundings, right? So when you do that, you get them talking, and then it comes down to, I talk about my custom covert intuitive presentation, where you present in a way that will separate you from anybody in the marketplace. Now, Chelsea gets back from Tahiti tomorrow, okay? So when she does that, like I said, we've got videos canned, ready to go up into the Academy, which is going to talk about the process of the custom covert intuitive presentation, how to use it in your business, and we're going to actually have it downloadable within inside the Academy for you, so you guys can use that. But it's basically my presentation on how I go through, and you can modify it in Keynote if you're a Mac person. But you can go through, and what it will do is it will take someone through a presentation. So at the end of the presentation, they go, "Holy cow! Once you build rapport, they trust you. You show up early, you do all the right things, and you use that presentation. And if there's some level of motivation there, then there's a very, very, very good chance you'll be able to get this deal and get it done. It's important that way. Now, we've just hired a new sales guy. He's been around for about a month now. His first 3 weeks, he got 10 contracts just by using this presentation, by walking in, building rapport. He kind of got that down because he had sales background, and then boom, he just used the presentation, laid it out, and it was like he's like this is like taking candy from a kid in a candy store or whatever, candy from a kid. So he's like, and it was just easy flow process. It has testimonials in there, has all the stuff. So we'll have that in the Academy updated here probably next week, sometime after Chelsea gets back, and we can get these videos up for you inside there. So now, once you go through that, after the presentation, it literally gives you an alternate choice close. And it says, listen, Mr. Seller, would you like to close on Friday or would you like to close on Monday? It's a very simple close. It's an alternate choice close. It takes the seller off the price, and now they talk about actually saying, hey, do you want to close on Friday or Monday? And it takes them now, and you basically, boom, and you move them from the price over to when you like to close. Now they're thinking about, well, we could close on the Friday. If we close on Friday, but then I have scheduled, then I got people going to come over Monday. Why don't we close on Monday? Okay, great. All we got to do now is fill out the contract, get the price, and boom, you just assume the sale from that point forward. Then they come objections, right? And in part of inside here, I have what's called the objection annihilation method. Inside the if you go to flip2freedom.com, I just released a podcast called the Objection Annihilation Method, and what that will do is I list all the objections and overcome them for them. You can listen to it on there. Also, I have written out all the objections that you can download inside the academy as well, and that will help you overcome objections. And once you realize that objections doesn't mean no. If someone says, I want to think about it, it doesn't mean no. If someone says, you know, I got other investors that want to look at it, doesn't mean no. It just means that you haven't done your job yet, all the way. You haven't built enough rapport. You haven't convinced them to the fact that, or also, too, you haven't challenged them on the fact that, listen, Mr. Seller, right? You called me because you want to sell your house. We talked on the phone, you said if we liked each other, the price was right, we can get the deal done. So what about me, or what about the whole process are you not ready to commit? Is it me? Did I say something wrong? Is it the process? You know, about how, you know, signing the contract, closing the transaction? You know what I mean? Is it the contract itself, the detail and the language in the contract, or is it the price? So out of all these, you know, which about these is making you hesitate, Mr. Seller? And then shut up. And they're going to go, there's going to be about a 3 to 5 second pause, and you're going to go, and you're going to feel awkward because you're going to want to jump in it. That 3 to 5 seconds feels like 2 hours, and you're going to want to say something, and it's going to be like, right? And then he's going to say, well, it's your price. Say, great, Mr. Seller, you know, I'm at $128,000. And I showed you that, you know, based upon comparison of sales in your neighborhood, and I pretty much, you know, showed you exactly how we came up with that price. Now remember, Mr. Seller, I'm paying cash. I can close on your time frame. You don't have to pay any commissions, closing costs, or fees. This is a net number to you. Nothing comes out of that but except your tax prorations. Now you said you paid your taxes. So let me ask you a question, Mr. Seller. What price are you thinking? And why? So now you get them to justify the price. They're at 128. They go, well, I need to be at 135. That's a closable gap. You can close that gap. Now you're at a gap. Now you're going to close that gap. The easiest way to close the gap is go, hey, you know, and you don't do it right away. You say, listen, let me ask you, if I could get the 135 seller, I'm not saying I can, Mr. Seller, can we get this deal done today? And he goes, yeah. You walk around, you come back and say, listen, I can't do 135, but here's what I can do. It's going to make it fair for both of us. Instead, there's basically a $7,000 gap. Okay, you're 135, I'm 128. Why don't we just split it down the middle, right? Split it down the middle, and we'll be good, and we can get this deal done. I'll feel good about it. I know we can get the deal done. You know, you'll feel good about it. It's a win-win all the way. Will that work, Mr. Seller? And he's going to go, okay, most 99% of the time, if you close a gap, let's split it down the middle, and you frame it as a win-win situation, most of the time, almost 90% of the time, a seller will say, okay, and then you can write it up. So you took an objection that I want to talk to another investor, I want to think about it, you boxed it, right? And then you overcame the objection and you got the contract. Okay? And an objection doesn't mean no, it doesn't mean I don't like you, it doesn't mean whatever. It means that there's something, they're stalling about something. And if you can overcome that, you can get the contract. And that's why I have all these different objections. But once you understand that you can box it, and once you box it, you get out to the real reason, and then typically the real reason is price. And if you can get them to justify their price and the gap is small enough, then you can bridge that gap and you can get that deal done. Okay? Now think about all the appointments you went on, all the sellers you spoke to, that if you followed a specific process with them, how many deals could you have got? You know? How many deals could you have got? You know, I mean, think about it. If this one process gets you an extra, you know, instead of 1 out of 25, you get 2 or 3 out of 25, right? All the marketing you do is going to decrease your cost per deal. It's going to increase your ROI, right? And you're going to pull more revenue because you're converting better. You know, you're converting one more person you doubled your business. Same marketing, double the business. You get 2 more clients, you triple your business, same marketing, but now you're converting. You see how powerful this is? So if I go to you, let me ask you a question. What if I could show you a way that you could triple your business without spending a dime more on marketing? What would you do? Oh my gosh! And see, a lot of you guys might be looking for the magic pill. Oh my gosh, what's the magic thing? Listen, this business is so simple. It's so simple. It's people and marketing. It's marketing, actually, and people. If you can understand people, right, and you understand marketing, marketing just comes down to consistently marketing, keyword consistently marketing and reinvesting 15%, and you can scale this sucker big. Now what happens is you look at conversion, how you can get good at converting. And from that point, if you find good deals, you'll be able to sell them. Okay, you can sell them to realtors. Realtors have buyers. You can sell them to your buyers list. If you put it on Craigslist, you'll build your buyers list. They'll come flooding for these properties. So the thing is it's just marketing, and it's just people. That's it. You get great at marketing, which is not that hard. You pick a postcard, you pick a list, you press send, you take calls. And you do that consistently, and you scale it from that point forward. And then you hit all the marks. The only difference between like you and I, when it comes to doing a lot of deals or few deals, I hit more marketing channels. I send out more mail. I'm on TV. I'm on radio. We're in publications. So we have more marketing channels. I'm completely online. So more marketing channels funneling in, right? And now we've really honed in on conversion. So I'm looking at my business and I go, okay, how can I triple my business? If I could spend the same money on marketing, how could I triple my business? Well, to be able to, I got triple my business. I could either triple my marketing, and what does that do? Now I'm tripling my cost on top of that, which could work. Or an intelligent way to do it is I'm gonna increase my marketing, but I'm gonna triple my conversion. So I'm gonna hone down a system for my guys that they will convert deals, more deals, right? So instead of having the same leads coming in, if I can get 3 instead of 1 out of 25, I can get 3 out of 25. I just triple my business, keeping everything the same. And see, there'll be a point where, listen, I've maximized that. I've maximized my marketing. I've maximized my conversions. Now I've got to move markets. Now you're in one market, you go in another market, you want to duplicate the exact same process in other markets. And that's how you scale it big time. So, all right, so let's get to, I'm going to go here, in the desktop, screen share, and I'm going to go to here. I'm going to answer your questions. All right, question time. Jeez, you guys are talkative. Okay, this is from Jim Shoemaker in Queen Creek, Arizona. Sean, in your experience, what is the typical life cycle of a yellow letter campaign? How quickly after letters start to arrive should I expect calls to start coming in, and how long until typically die off? Just trying to plan when I need to start my next back. Okay, great question. With the yellow letter campaign, typically, let's say if it hits on a Tuesday, and it usually hits around 4 o'clock, right? Because that's when people come home and they get the mail. So you start getting calls Tuesday, all day Wednesday, and a small portion of Thursday, and then Thursday it's going to start dying off, right? And then you're going to get trickle-in calls. Now let me tell you this. Trickle-in calls are some of the best deals. I don't know why. Those trickle-in calls tend to be some of the best deals. So don't, when those call in, make sure you call them right back, because those trickle-in deals are great. So what happens is you put them out, you're going to get a lot in the initial beginning, and then it's going to and then it's going to die out after that. Okay, but then that's why you have every single week marketing, 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 marketing. We drop on Friday, mail hits on Tuesday. We drop on Friday, mail hits on Tuesday. That's basically our protocol. Okay. This is Sean. You said that your best decision was to sell out your inventory when even your hairdresser is making money flipping houses. Are we there yet? Has your hairdresser made another big score? No, I don't think we're there yet. I don't think we're. Basically, what we're saying is we've come up from the bottom. Are we at the top of where it's just insane? No, we're not. We're not there yet right now. I think we've come up like this, and we're starting to come up off the bottom. So we're in the optimism phase. So I think, you know, what I'm seeing is 2016 mid. That's what I'd be looking at, 2016 mid. So between now and 2016, we've got to ramp the sucker up as make as much money as humanly possible, because when the market does come down, we want to get out, we want to stash cash, and we want to swoop in and buy cheap inventory. This is from Craig Hunt. Will the new software have any tools for gaining reliable comps or sold prices? Yes, they will. They'll give you the top of the market and the bottom of the market. This is from Jean-Marie. It says, "Hey Sean, glad to be part of F2F family. Cool, glad to have you here. How exactly do you send offers via email?" Well, how exactly do I send offers via email? Well, we have an offer. It's already pre-signed. They put in their name. They put in the offer price, and it's already pre-signed. They save it as a PDF. They attach it to an email, and they send out the email. So that's exactly how we do that. Snail mail, we mail the offer. We just ask them their address and we mail it. What do you say? Well, basically we're selling an offer, and you determine that there's not a lot of motivation, not enough for you to get in your car, put your folder together, drive down there, meet with the seller, and it's, you know, typically by the time it's about an hour and a half to 2 hour process to going meet the seller. So you got to make a decision. Is it worth for me to take 2 hours out of my day to go meet with the seller or not, based upon a conversation you're having over the phone to determine motivation? If you do determine, then you want to go down there and get the contract. If not, then what you want to do is you want to send an offer. So I say, hey, listen, Mr. Seller, you know, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull some comps, comparable properties. I'm going to send you a cash offer. Which would be better for me? The best way to get it to you? Would it be fax or via email? And they go, well, I don't do fax and I don't do email. Say, great, what's the best address for it? You know, so I could send it to you. Or they might come back and they say, well, email's the best, and you can just send it. What do you send? I send the contracts. There you go. This is from Rich. Can you watch this later? Yes, you can. Da-da-da. Thanks, I'm new. Yes, you can watch this later. Yeah, it'll be inside the Academy later. Best laptop for real estate? I have a MacBook Pro 15-inch, fully decked out, maxed out RAM. Is about $3,500. You can get an Apple. Good question from Katrina. What is the difference between agreement for sale, subject to, lease option, wrap? They all almost the same, but I'm trying to figure out what is the difference between each strategy and the pros and cons of each. Very good question. Okay, Katrina, good question. Well, let me break it into, I need a piece of paper. Let me break it into a couple things for you, Katrina. And in category 1, right, we have agreement for sale, right? Contract for deed, CFD is what they call it. or land contract. So basically in category 1, there's a agreement for sale, contract for deed, and a land contract. Okay, this is a way to sell a property or purchase a property without having the deed transfer. So basically, an agreement for sale says in the agreement that when you pay off the underlying loan, then the title will transfer. So when the underlying loan pays off, then the title will transfer. A contract for deed and a land contract are similar. So those are all in the same class, I guess you could say. Okay. Now, category 2 is your subject to. Sub 2. So, and then I'll tell you the strategy on each one too. Sub 2 is where the title transfers, the deed, but the loan stays in the person's name. Now, what's the difference between subject 2 and subject 1? Is that the actual title transfers on a subject to transaction. The loan stays in the name. For an example, let's say you have a house and it's in your name, and you sell the house subject to that. The loan would stay in your name, but now the deed would be in my name. The loan's in your name, but the deed's in my name. Well, okay, could that be considered subject to? Now, category 1, agreement for sale, contract for deed, and land contract. This is when, let's say the loan's in your name, but you sell the property on an agreement for sale, saying the agreement says, well, if when you pay off the loan, then the title will transfer. So it's basically an agreement between you and the seller, or you and the buyer. Category 3 is lease option. Okay, lease option is now a lease, which is basically a rental agreement, attached with a option to purchase the property. So it's a rent to own. There's no title that transfers. There's no whatever. They have to buy it at the term. Okay, so let's say your lease is for 18 months, and you have an option that they can purchase the property for X amount of dollars at 18 months. So they have to purchase the property at that time for there to exercise their option. They're going to turn their option into a purchase contract, and then they're going to close on the deal. Okay. Now, the other question was wrap. A wrap is what you do to an underlying known. Now, a wrap can be done with a subject to, and a wrap can be done with an agreement for sale, contract for deed, and a land contract. So a wrap is basically what you're doing to the underlying loan. So let's say the loan's in your name, the property's in your name, and you sell it subject to. So the deed will transfer, but the loan will be wrapped. And what wrap means is basically you're doing an exact wrap of the existing loan. So let's say the loan is for, let's say it has 10 years left on it. It's at 5% interest with payments at, $800 a month. On a wrap loan would be a new loan on there that's going to wrap the existing terms, 10 years, 5%, $800 a month. Okay, so and then that new wrap loan can be serviced by a servicing company. So now, how do you use each one? So you've got category 1, agreement for sale, contract for deed. I use those, right, when I have a seller that has a house that's worth 100 and they own 95 and they want to get out of it. I'm going to do what's called an agreement for sale. I'm going to structure this agreement for sale, and I'm going to turn around and sell it to an investor if the property makes sense from an investment standpoint. Now, when it comes to the Dodd-Frank Act, you can do these transactions, but you only can sell to an investor. You cannot sell to owner-occupant unless it's a lease option. Now, it hasn't been determined about the agreement for sale, the contract for deed yet, that I am comfortable enough to basically tell you what to do. But the bottom line is this, is that I would not sell to owner-occupant. I would only sell to an investor. Subject to is where the actual title transfers and the underlying loan stays the same, right? You can lock it up that way and turn around and flip it to an investor. lease option, and a wrap is just what's happening on the underlying loan. That's a long answer to a medium question. And it's, you know, and it's difficult. It's, you know, I mean, I could do an entire training just on specifically, and I do have it in the academy, specifically on each one of these and how to use them in your business. But I use the agreement for sale, and the reason I use that, and I don't do lease options, because lease options is very difficult to get a higher down payment on a lease option, typically because it's rent to own, so you're just going to get a small option deposit, whereas agreement for sale, you can actually get a larger down payment up in the 10, 15, 20,000 range. Craig Hunt says, Sean, the comp should be the lowest retail comps, right? Your keyword is retail. I pull the lowest of the low comps within a 1 mile radius over the last 90 to 120 days, okay, 6 months. So 880 days. So I pull the lowest of the low, and it's whether it be retail, wholesale, whatever it is, lowest of the low comps. How do you get accurate comps quick? The best way to get, I mean, we use Redfin, right? Or you can use something like Trulia. This is from Katrina. How detailed do you track your marketing with extensions? I don't do extensions. Example, will your absentee high equity receive one extension at the time, send a follow-up postcard? No. If you go through the training in the academy, you'll see that we do everything by individual phone number, not extension. So we use Grasshopper. You can use Freedom Voice. Either or doesn't matter. But essentially what we do is we have a different phone number for each campaign. This is from Joseph Bumshawn. Will we ever get access to the covert presentation item at the live event attendees will receive? Yes, I will have it inside the Flip2Freedom Academy. I'm just waiting for Chelsea's been gone for about 2 weeks right now in Tahiti on a cruise. So when she gets back, I'm working with her to get them up. We're hoping to have most of the stuff up in just a section of the training inside there that will detail specifically the custom covert presentation and how to read people and how to handle it. This is a good question from Jonathan Park. Also, the agreement for sale, land contract, contract for deed, whatever the terms may be, seller wants to know if they do this option, can they still take out another mortgage so they can get another home? And the question on that is, from my understanding, is yes, they can, but they either have to show seasoning that the CFD, the contract for the agreement for sale, has been seasoned, and they have a certain amount of payments that have been made correctly. Or two, they're going to have to qualify for both loans, meaning they have to be able to qualify financially for both loans. If there's seasoning, then what happens? You don't have to qualify for both loans. If there is no seasoning, then you have to basically qualify for both. All right. Okay. This is from Craig. Jonathan? Okay, no, he's talking to Jonathan. Anyone else Frozen? I'm not Frozen. My daughter loves Frozen. I've seen that movie 1,000 times. Okay. This is from Katrina. Which postcard do you recommend we use for first absentee owners list? Your Go Big printing postcard #1. Yes, that's the one we use. And postcard 2, we've been trying to. But both those are actually the one that says we've been trying to reach you. That's the one we use. You'll be sent out that we are not overwhelmed. The max amount of postcard, I'd start with 1,000 and scale it from there. If you're brand new, Katrina, start from the 1,000 and start from there. Do I have any insight what happens to Google Voice? I don't have any insight what's happening to Google Voice. I did hear they're supposed to be going away, so I would make the switch to Freedom Voice or Grasshopper soon if all your marketing is sent to that voice. And remember, like if it's free, you know, you get what you pay for. Follow up my yellow letter question, Jim Shoemaker. The campaign I sent out 1,000 letters out of state, absentee owners, high equity. The mail started arriving 8 days ago, and 7 calls, 6 which were opt out. I probably would, in that particular case, 1,000. You send 1,000 letters to absentee owners with high equity. I'm assuming you get the list from ListSource, and I'm assuming you went with Go Big Printing to send out your yellow letters. And you're saying they arrived 8 days ago. I don't know. That's not consistent with what we're seeing. If you send out 1,000 now, a lot of like I said, there's other people mailing absentee owners high equity. So I would. First off, to make sure you sent them to the right address, there's the address of the house, which could be sent. And I've had this happen before, Jim, where on an absentee owner, they actually sent them to the address of the house, which is they're full of renters, and the renters just threw them away, or send them to the actual tax mailing address. If you send them to the tax mailing address, then it's going to be going to the owner. I've seen it where people send it to the address and the mailing bombs. So I would check that to make sure. This is from Wayne. Sean, concerning the inherited list, do you mail the entire list right away or trickle them out before the next quarter comes? Also, how frequently do you remail the list? First off, Wayne, I don't trickle anything, especially when there's only, in Phoenix, only 800 names a quarter. I get it out as soon as possible, and then we hit the entire list and compile it every single month. This is from Ryan Geary. I have an absentee list. It's about a year old. Do you think it's okay to mail it? No, I probably wouldn't. I'd probably get a fresh list. Yeah, Jonathan, it's a MacBook Pro, decked out, Retina screen, 15-inch display, about $3,500. And the reason it's $3,500 because I got a completely decked out. I maxed out the capacity and the RAM and all that stuff. Yes, it's a Retina. This is from Guest 248. Sean, I'm a newbie. I have a motivated seller in Glendale, Arizona. I'm in Florida. I need to partner up with someone to close the deal. Please advise. Send a email with all the detailed information to offers@phoenixwholesalehomes.com. Offers@phoenixwholesalehomes.com. I'll get it to our acquisition department and see what we can do. Offers@phoenixwholesalehomes.com. What if you have no comps? You have to have comps, or you can't make an offer. That's it. You got to go. Here's what you do on comps. First, you first look in the subdivision, and you go back 3 months. If there is no comps, then you go a quarter mile the last 3 months. If there's no comps, then you go a half mile last 3 months. If there's no comps, then you go 1 mile the last 3 months. If there's no comps, right, then you go 5 months back, you go 3 months, 4 months back, 5 months back, 6 months back within a mile. If there's no comps, 6 months back within a mile, then you go 2 miles, then you go 3 miles, then you go 4 miles. Okay, and you go out, and that's how you determine. But you go back 6 months is the max, and then you have to go out, right, until you find comps. But you have to find comps. And once you find those comps, they're going to be so skewed that you literally have to offer, 30% of what those comps are. So if a similar house is going for $100,000, I'd be offering $20,000, $30,000 for the house. This is from Katrina. It says, do you use a different phone number for every time you send out a different postcard? No, it's not a phone number. What we do is we rotate. So we'll send out like we just sent out. I test different postcards. So we sent out a large postcard. So we sent out a large postcard geared toward strictly to talking to absentee owners. That one got a different number. Okay, that one got a different phone number. Then we test our small postcard that we did that went direct to a 4-minute voicemail. We tested that. That went to a different phone number. Then what happens is once it's sat for a week to a week and a half, then we'll come back and then we'll hit that same number again. So we just don't do it back every single back to back to back. We usually rotate and we can hit that same number with similar marketing. Typically twice a month. Yeah, this is from Sean. Whoa, where'd it go? Should at Academy, I noticed that through the modules or videos and trainings with 2014. Yes, focus on those first. Part of the revamp of the Academy is we're going to be we're getting rid of all the older videos out there, and we're replacing it with the 2014. So that's what we'll be doing in the next probably 30 days. Sean, how do I track where my buyer leads are coming from? I post on Craigslist, Backpage, and eBay. It sounds like, what do you post? Do you post a website? Do you post a phone number? If you post, you could have different phone numbers for each. If you post on websites, you could have different extensions. It could be, it says, smoking deals for sale / Craigslist, smoking deals for sale / Backpage. And you'll be able to tell based upon the extension where the leads are coming from. The new software will give comps, and we're in the development phase right now, and it's going to be killer. Killer. Alrighty. That's it for all the questions. That's it. Let's get back to talking. Boom! You guys having fun? I want to leave you with I answered all you guys' questions there. I want to leave you with something, something that so that you can do this. Okay, when I first got started, it's scary getting on the skateboard the first time. You might fall and you might scrape your knee or whatever. But just understand that if you persist and you overcome the obstacles, and like maybe you send mailings and you get 5 calls, and I want to be clear on a certain thing, that There is the mechanics of what you do, and then there's you. And I talk about this. I talk about in the Extreme Freedom event. I talk about what's called the triangle effect. So there's everything, the mechanics, getting a list, sending out a postcard, talking to the seller, converting, and all this type of stuff. There's that. That's the mechanics. And then there's you. It's the two sides of the coin. You got the heads and the tails. You got you. So the mechanics, we all can do the same mechanics, and we all can be in the same market doing the same mechanics, but you are the key factor. So now if we take away the mechanics, because that's a variable that's unchanged, right? We can mail the same list, we can sell the same postcard, we can be, you know, the market is a variable in there, but the market and what the type of calls and stuff like that. But the bottom line, the biggest variable is you. So now we look at you. And when we look at you, we start to realize that, holy cow, we have to become better. We have to, for things to change, we got to change. For things to get better, we got to get better. How can we get better? Well, let's look at your chronic thoughts. What are you thinking about? Well, if I mail it, it might not work for me, and if it doesn't work for me, I don't know, you know? What's the story you're telling yourself? Because you can mail the same letter, you can mail it to the same list, but if you're telling a resistant story, a negative story that's blocking success, I don't care, you can mail 10,000, 10 million letters, and it still won't work. So the key factor is you. What is the story that you're telling yourself? What's the story you're telling yourself? Right? So, you know, think about your internal dialogue. Is it leaning more positive? Is it optimistic? Is it negative? What's your internal dialogue? What you say to yourself, what you repeat, what's your story? Because here's the deal. You can be in a, you know, have a negative story, negative thoughts, you know, always go down. And then you get now in the Flip2Freedom Academy, and you send out letters, and they go, oh, this doesn't work. Works fine. Has nothing to do with the mechanics. Has everything to do with you. So you just can't do it because your mind is bringing you to failure, even though you're putting in forth success actions. Once you understand that you got to get your story straight and your action straight, then you're going to be going down this, and you're instead of pulling to opposite directions, you're going to be going in the flow, and you're going to be going in the right direction. So the bottom line is this, is that if it's not working for you, then you have to look at you. Look in the mirror. You know, do you look like you can strike a check for $150,000, $200,000 house? If the answer is no, change it. For things to get better, you have to get better. If you look in there and you think about your internal dialogue, the things you're telling yourself, your story, right? Guess what? If it's a negative story, oh, it never works for me, nothing ever, what's wrong, things suck, and you always focus on the negative, you always focus on the bad. You can send 1 billion letters and it's not going to work, and you're going to blame the system and blame this and blame the real estate doesn't work. Okay. It's like putting vinegar and water together. It doesn't mesh. The only way it meshes is if you get yourself in order. And I've worked. I talk a lot about that. But it's 50% or more of the equation, right? So what is and you always talk about this, how successful people think and this, that, and the other. There's whole trainings done on this part alone. Right, and we can talk about the mechanics and the CFD and the contract for deed and land contract and subject to and how that specifically works. that will come through experience and through education, training, and learning. It's in the academy and stuff like asking questions, you know. But really, it's most importantly is about how you can become a better person, right? Your thoughts. And I can tell you the biggest thing is what you dwell on, right? What's your thoughts? What you dwell on? What do you put in your head? I don't watch TV. Rarely I ever watch it unless it's sports. I like sports. But like, I don't watch the news. I mean, my wife, you know, going to bed last night, she's flipping through the channels. She stopped on a news channel of this guy that's killing this person in this place and how they did. And I'm like, change it or I'm out of here, because I don't want to hear it. I don't want that going in my head, that garbage going in my head before I go to bed. Now, what I do, guess what? I have my January letter. I read that every morning, and I read it before I go to bed. And now I read the January letter to myself, and I recorded my voice, and I listen to it when I go to bed. I am programming myself. That's what I do, right? Now, it's because guess what? I know I have to manage this to get where I want to go. So some of you aren't doing that. Some of you wrote your January letter, you read it, you know, in the morning, and you read it at night, and you read it, did it for 2 weeks, and then you stopped. Maybe some of you haven't even done it yet, and you're trying to get results. It's a key factor. Everybody has an opportunity, you know, to change their life financially, set their family up for the rest of their life, take exotic vacations that, I mean, I'm not next weekend, I'm headed to New York City, right? I'm going to be in New York City for 10 days. I'm taking my family out there. They've never been there. I've been in New York City before. But guess what? We're staying at 5th and 58th at the Plaza Hotel at the top level suite in the entire place. I mean, it's ridiculous. Now, did I ever thought? No, we're flying first class. So we're flying first class, heading to LaGuardia, and then we're getting picked up by a limo, and they're taking us to the Plaza Hotel. Now, I have friends, right, that go on vacations, and they try to skimp it out. They go, well, you know, let's try to stay at the Motel 6 around the corner, and this, that, and the other. We'll fly coach at the back of the seat at the last on cheap tickets, and we have, you know, 7 different connections to get there. Why? So the bottom line is that this business can do stuff for you that you can't even imagine. It's amazing. You have everything you want, right? You can have the lifestyle, the freedom, the whole shebang. The bottom line is that you've got to work on ourselves, your thoughts. You got to believe that you can do it. You got to visualize and see yourself doing it, and you got to put yourself and submerge yourself in such a positive, it's going to happen, expectant state that, guess what? It will start flowing to you. You write your January letter, right? Now, I mean, if you haven't done it yet, now it's a May letter. Write it for May, of where you're going to be in the next 12 months, and write it as if it's May 2015, and as if the year's already happened. It's already happened. You know, 12 months from now. And guess what? Next May 2015, you're going to look back and you're going to go, holy cow, I can't believe it. We were talking to Nazar, who's at the event. He wrote his letter. He's like, I want to take my father to the Super Bowl. He's never been to the Super Bowl. Nazar's never been to the Super Bowl. It was a dream that was so far out there. I remember talking to him when he wrote his letter, and he's like, I don't know if it's tough for me to believe. Well, guess what? He just read it, he visualized it, he felt it. He took his dad to the Super Bowl. That was his goal, that was his dream. And whatever it might be for you, you got to program your brain. You got to guess what? Because if you sit there and watch TV and you sit there and watch the news, in high school, they taught you to be an employee. In college, they teach you how to be an employee, right? And you learn like math, science, social studies, English. I'm not saying it's important, but it's antiquated. But they don't teach you about success. They don't teach you about how your brain works. It doesn't teach you how the universe works when it comes to lining things up. They don't teach you that type of stuff. They don't teach you how to be an entrepreneur, right? You know, these big, huge, massive companies, right, that employ, and they spend money as alma maters of these schools, right? They don't want to teach the masses to become entrepreneurs. They want to teach the masses to become great employees. So now we come here and we're going, holy cow, I want to be a self-employed. I want to work for myself. I want to go against the grain. Well, guess what? We have all this programming of all this stuff for all these years that we've got to, and then we haven't really watched what's going on in our brain. I know I didn't. I mean, I had so many weeds. I mean, your brain's like a garden. I had weeds and stuff growing and negative thoughts and all these this, about, and the other, about money and this. My grew up, my parents, their phrase was, we can't afford that. Oh, you know, we can't afford that. Oh, friends are going down to Florida, they're hanging out, they're getting all tan, right? Coming back, going to the beach. I'm from Vermont. People in Vermont go to Florida. Well, we can't afford that. So we're going to go to Grandma's house. You're going to get the top bunk, and I'm going to get the bottom bunk. You know, my brother's going to get the top bunk, I'm going to get the bottom bunk. Come back, pasty white. All friends, you know, came back all tan because they went to the beach. I came back pasty white because we can't afford that. So if that's what you're telling yourself, that's what you're going to get. So whatever you're telling yourself is what you're going to get. Now, one thing about Donald Trump, right? Donald Trump, he says what's going to happen, and it's bigger than life, and it happens. He speaks his success. Are you speaking your success? What are you telling yourself? What is the story you're telling? Well, we're just getting by. You know, it's fair to Midland. We're getting there. Working on it. No, we're not. It's cranking, man. Guess what? It is rocking the house. We're having the best month ever. It's going to be the best year ever. 2014 is going to be the best year ever. And I'm so excited. We're cranking it out. Man, this is awesome. You know, different story than fair to Midland, right? So you can make a decision for you to understand that, yes, the mechanics you can learn. We all can learn that. But this over here, this is a huge factor to your success. Huge. Massive. And you won't, I don't care if your mechanics are perfect, you'll never get it. You'll never get it unless you play in this side over here. So that's enough of my spiel on that. But thanks for joining me. I greatly appreciate it. Next coaching call will be the 4th of June. That's when the next coaching call will be. The 28th, I'll be in New York City, so it'll be the 4th of June. And we will reconvene then, talk about some more stuff. And again, thank you guys so much for your time. I greatly appreciate it. And take care, and God bless.